Nam Guru. Hare Krishna. What a beautiful temple you all have here. I really like it. I feel like I've come home. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I needed that. This is a really important day because it is is it appearance or disappearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. It's the disappearance day. Because it is the disappearance day, Tirobhava, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. Here, actually, first give me the disciplic succession that was written by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. How is everybody? Awesome, happy, good. Okay. We welcome everyone who's joining us online from various places. This is a song by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, and it's called Shri Guru Parampara. Shri Guru Parampara. So in this song, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura gives a list of the prominent members of our sampradaya. I'll read the translation to begin with. In the beginning of creation, four-headed Brahma received the science of devotional service from the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Brahma taught this divine science to Devarshi Narada, and Narada imparted to Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. Shripad Madhvacharya, who is also known as Punapragnatirtha, calls himself a servant of Vyasa and is the guru and sole refuge of Padmanabha Tirtha. The two other principal disciples of Madhva are Nrihari Tirtha and Madhava Tirtha. Madhava Tirtha accepted the great Paramahamsa Akshobhya Tirtha as a disciple. The principal disciple of Akshobhya Tirtha was known as Jaya Tirtha, serving whom was Jnanasindhu's only purpose in life. Jnanasindhu taught the science of devotional service to Dayanidhi, whose servant was Vidyanidhi. Vidyanidhi in turn imparted this knowledge to Rajendra Tirtha, and he accepted Jayadharma as his servant. In this way, you should properly understand this disciplic succession. The great sannyasi Sri Purushottam Tirtha received the knowledge of devotional service from Jayadharma. The principal disciple of Purushottam Tirtha was the saintly Subramanya Tirtha, whose servant was the great Vyasa Tirtha. Vyasa Tirtha's servant was Lakshmipati Tirtha, and his disciple was Madhavendra Puri Goswami. The chief disciple of Madhavendra Puri was Ishvara Puri, and two of his older disciples were the renowned incarnations of Godhead, Sri Nityananda and Advaita Acharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the spiritual preceptor of all the worlds, made Ishvara Puri greatly fortunate by accepting him as his spiritual master. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Sri Sri Radhakrishna and is the very life of those Vaishnavas who follow in the footsteps of Sri Rupa Goswami. Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami gave great happiness to Vishvambhar, Lord Chaitanya. The great souls Jiva Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami became very dear to Rupa Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami's beloved student was Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who was an intimate friend of Lokanath Goswami. Lokanath Goswami's single disciple was Narottam Das. He always engaged in the service of his guru and was also very dear to Krishnadas Kaviraj. To serve the lotus feet of Narottam Das Thakur was the only desire of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was the instructing spiritual master of Baladev Vidyabhusan. Jagannath Das Babaji was a very prominent acharya after Sri Baladev Vidyabhushana and was the beloved instructing spiritual master of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's intimate friend and associate was the eminent Mahabhagavata Sri Gaurakishore Das Babaji, whose sole joy was found in Hari Bhajan. All these great saintly Vaishnava Paramahamsas are members of Lord Gauranga's spiritual family. Their lotus feet are my refuge. I am devoid of any real interest in devotional service, and am but a poor and lowly Tridandi sannyasi named Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. Note by the author, following the custom of Vaishnava authors, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura has placed his name at the end of this song. To glorify Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and his beloved disciple, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, as spiritual masters in disciplic succession from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the translators have composed the following verse, which may be substituted for the ninth verse. And as follows: the renowned Sri Varshabhanavi Daita Das, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, is always engaged in the service of his spiritual master, Srila Gaurakishore Das Babaji. His foremost disciple preacher is Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who has spread the message of Lord Chaitanya throughout the world and is the reservoir of compassion for all fallen souls. And isn't it a pleasure to come into the temple room on this special day and to see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur placed there? Because it reminds us of how protected we are by the Guru Parampara. There's a way in which we receive the mercy of all the acharyas, and the amalgamated instructions of all the acharyas flow down to us when we enter into the disciplic succession. Srila Prabhupada used to say also that when one accepts a guru, then one also then has a param guru and a param param guru and a param 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 guru. And just as one in a family finds that the grandparents are more merciful than the parents themselves, we also similarly get the special mercy of our param guru, or for some, the param param guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. So remembering him, we'll sing this song. Krishna hoite Hoy Krishna sevan mukha, Brahma hoite nara deramati. Altogether, Narada hoite Vyasa madhva koi Vyasa dasa Purna pragna padma nabha gati Nrihari madhava bamshe akshobhya paramahamse shishya boli angikara kore akshobhyera Shisha Jaya Tirtha Name Parichaya Taradasya Jnana Sindhu To Re Taha Hoite Doya Nidhi Taradasa Vidya Nidhi Rajendra Hoilo Taha Te Tahara Kinkora Jaya Dharma Name Parichaya Parampara Jano Bhalo Mate Jaya Dharma Dasya Khyati Shri Purushottama Jati Tahate Brahmanya Tirtha Suri Vyasa Tirtha Tara Dasa Lakshmi Pati Vyasa Dasa Taha hoite Madhavendra Puri Madhavendra Puri Baro Shishya Bara Shri Ishvara Nityananda Shri Advaita Vibhu Ishvara Puri Ke Dhanya Korilen Shri Chaitanya Jagat Guru Gaura Mahaprabhu Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahe Anya Rupa Nuga Janera Jivana Vishwambara Priyankara Shishwarupa Damodara Shri Goswami Rupa Sanatana Rupa Priya Mahajana Jiva Raghunatahana Tara Priya Kavi Krishna Dasa Krishna Das Priya Baro Narotamo Seva Para Jara Para Vishwanatha Asha Vishwanatha Bhakta Sata Baladeva Jagannatha Tara Priya Shri Bhakti Vinoda Mahabhagavata Baro Shri Goda Kishora Baro Hari Bhajanete Jara Moda Ihara Paramahamsa Gaurangera Nija Bamsha Tadera Charane Mama Gati Amiseba Udasina Namete Tridandi Dina Shri Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Shri Varshabhanavi Bara Sada Sevya Seva Para Tahara Dayita Dasa Nama Tada Pradhan Pracharako Shri Bhakti Vedanta Namo Patita Janete Doyadama Patita Janete Doyadama Patita Janete Doyadama Patita Janete Doyadama Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. When am I supposed to do the Mangalacharana? Tonight? At the end? That's when you're going to record it? What we talked about yesterday? You mean during the Pushpanjali? Huh? Not a good idea? Then what do you mean at the end? How do you mean that? Huh? Separately? Okay. Well, I have a great treat for all of you because I have a container full of nectar here. This is really a fantastic book. Compiled by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Swami, who put his heart and soul into this biography of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. And anywhere you read here, you'll become enlivened. So I'm not going to discriminate too much, except that I already have, by picking out a few places. One is a lecture. I thought it would be nice to hear a lecture by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, because we don't hear those very much. Would you like to hear a lecture? This is a lecture at Sri Gaudiya Math, 12th July 1936, by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. We jivas are really poor, no doubt. We are poor jivas, but not poor Narayanas. To identify Narayan, the permanent possessor of all wealth, with a poor jiva is an absurdity. Our poverty should be diminished, and to that end, wealth should be accumulated. Wealth of what kind? It is wealth of Krishna Prema, causeless love for the absolute truth, Sri Krishna. And for this, we should pray to him in the same way that a Vaishnav Mahajan prayed. Premadhan vina vyartha daridra jivana, das kori Vetana mori deha premadhana. Life without love is useless and poor, they say. Appoint me in thy service, O Lord, with love as my pay. That's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita 3:20-37. Could you, somebody grab that? That's 3:20-37. That must mean Antya Lila is number is 3. Antya 20:37. See what you find. Our prayer should be of this nature. Of what nature? You want to hear it again? Life without love is useless and poor, they say. Appoint me in thy service, O Lord, with love as my pay. Let's hear the translation there. That's Antya 20:37. Premadana vina vyartha daridra jivana, das kori vetana mori deha premadhana. Without love of God, my life is useless. Therefore, I pray that you accept me as your servant and give me the salary of ecstatic love of God. It's a verse worth remembering and keeping track of. Okay? We'll collect that verse. Our prayer should be of this nature. As soon as we feel necessity for Krishna Prema, we naturally begin to dislike everything but Krishna. In absence of this, other tendencies and considerations take firm hold of our mind, exhorting us to be great workers, forgetful of the main objective of the Pancharatra. What are you looking for this? It's in the Vedabase? I don't think so. You won't find it. So you can collect these on Kindle or something and then show them when we need them. Ramanan, do you have Kindle? Ramananda, do you have Kindle? Get Kindle, and then when we have other books that we need to put on, you can put it up there too, right? Will that work?
Yes, it will work.
Say yes. Thank you. Okay. We should cover all bases. Now, okay. Now what course should we adopt regarding our propaganda work in England? Mahaprabhu enjoins us to proclaim his name throughout the length and breadth of this world, from small hamlets to big cities. At present, gross worldly names are everywhere in vogue. Henceforth, let the transcendental name be proclaimed all over the world. We do not belittle the importance of the Panchratrika process of having representatives in theistic institutions or establishing temples with deities, yet we are of the opinion that the duty of the better or higher class is propaganda work. Mahaprabhu's Manobhishta is that Vaikuntha Nam be proclaimed everywhere, and to that end many pamphlets need to be printed. The rich are the so-called big men of the world and are running after fame, females, and prestige. They will not listen to our words even if we cry horse in their ears, horse, H-O-A-R-S-E, until we're hoarse. So why waste time on them? Therefore, we say that the line of our propaganda work should be to produce sufficient number of pamphlets, even at the cost of possibly suspending temple construction. This will show them the insignificance of discoveries of truths or discussions that have found expression in their philosophies or applied sciences, in contrast to the enormity and magnitude of the subject matter of our discussions. I pump my fist in the air not because I don't like temples, I do, and they're extremely important centers for everyone to come and have the experience of the spiritual world, to immerse themselves. However, there's a way in which one might put the cart before the horse and think that by constructing costly temples, one is rapidly advancing the cause of Krishna consciousness. And however, we find that there's a lot of energy that gets sucked into that. And it's at the cost, oftentimes, of the kind of enthusiastic and well-organized outreach that was favored by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, as he's expressing here, and obviously of Srila Prabhupada, through which one naturally develops a economic base based on Lord Chaitanya's special mercy, and through which one then can construct all kinds of infrastructure to manage the results of one's well-established outreach programs. A self-conceited braggart can never successfully carry on propaganda work. How could it be possible for him? For the absolute truth never manifests to a vainglorious person who considers himself the only preacher of truth. Look that word up, vainglorious, it's a nice word. Such a man can do no good for the world. Among such persons, some will be fond of prohibited food as available at Kaligat. Some will be malicious patriots engrossed in considerations of their own advantages as opposed to others' interests, while others will be in the clutches of self-enjoying propensities, or its opposite, tendencies toward renunciation with a view to have self-emolument or salvation, and the rest will make a pretense of bhakti. Kaligat, the site of the famous temple of Kali, to whom animals are sacrificed and the meat eaten by her votaries. But none of them will have the least idea of the supreme absolute truth, divested of the slenderest trace of insincerity and maliciousness. Oh, how deplorable it is that the propaganda of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the glorious, unique devotional teachings of India, is stopped here in the very land of its origin. And it is no less regrettable to see people suffering under the mistaken idea that mere ringing of bells in places of worship, mere formal observance of prescribed rites, touring holy places, ostentatiously reciting holy works like the Bhagavatam for the sole purpose of earning a livelihood, or playing the role of preceptors merely by hereditary right, are sure signs of bhakti. Such persons, being quite ignorant of the true significance of proper worship, the true object of pilgrimage, the actual duties and exemplary ways of a preceptor, the true culture of theistic works like the Bhagavatam, and the difference between real and false bhakti. It is painful to see people frittering away valuable time in no better work than mischievous, ill-conceived criticism of others' conduct. Welcome everybody who's just come in. Today is the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, who is the guru of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And on this day we're having readings from some of his biography. Right now I'm reading from a lecture that he gave to the Gaudiya Math in the 1930s to get an idea, the flavor of his manner of speech and presentation. Somebody there on the phone? Okay.
Yes.
Who is that?
Yeah.
Who is it? We welcome you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I'm not sure who that was, but this is Pandit Srivas.
Pandit Srivas, very nice. From Cincinnati, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for having me.
Okay. It is painful to see people frittering away valuable time in no better work than mischievous, ill-conceived criticism of others' conduct. They excel only in giving advice to others. No doubt their damned mind is responsible for that. So every morning on rising from bed, they should make their wicked mind hear the following immortal song of Thakur Bhaktivinoda. Bhajare Bhajare Ama Manati Manda Bhaja Brajavani Radha Krishna Bhaja Gaura Garadhara Dvaita Guru Nityananda Smara Srinivas Haridas Murari Mukunda Smara Rupa Sanatana Jiva Raghunatha Dvandva Smara Raghava Gopala Bhatta Swarup Ramananda Smara Goshti Sahakarna Pura Sena Shivananda Smara Rupanuga Sadhu Jana Bhajana Ananda. In this song, the mind is first of all asked to hold bhajan of Radha Krishna in their joyful activity in the sacred bowers of Vraja. Asterisk, this sentence corresponds to the first two lines of the song. The subsequent lines consist of names of Lord Chaitanya and some of his leading associates, each line preceded by smara, remember. In comparative view, the degrees of excellence of the five rasas from Madhurya to Shanta, the state in which active service is wanting, are gradually lowering. A servitor in Shanta Ras is neither actively engaged in nor against bhajan. He will neither counter nor actively conduct it. Now bhajan or bhakti may be of different kinds. There's michya bhakti, false bhakti, as opposed to shuddha bhakti, unalloyed bhakti. The former resorted to by adherents of karma, who are followers of smriti. Thakur Narottam Das warns us against such false bhakti. Karmi jnani michya bhakta nahoibe tate anurakta shuddha bhajaneti karaman. Be not attached to karmis, jnanis, and devotees false. Pure unalloyed bhajan do always endorse. The cult of the self-styled social reformers or society makers of the past or present age is quite different from the ideas and principles of bhaktas. At present, followers of the former are active in various movements related to personal advantage and self-enjoyment. Those agitators who, leaving aside all considerations of bhakti, are busy in movements only for temporal advantages are harming themselves. Their failure to serve Krishna, the emporium, or rather the emblem, of all endless immeasurable nectar of love, joy, and pleasure, bespeaks simply of their ignorance of the real state of affairs. Such apathy towards service to Krishna gradually turns one into an upholder of nirvisheshvad. What could be more deplorable for mankind? So to counteract the aforesaid tendencies in us, each morning we should sing advice to our wicked mind to hold bhajan. But which is impossible if we are unmindful of the Trinadapi Sunichena dictum. The only object of our bhajan is the holy feet of Sri Radhakrishna roaming about freely in the forest of Vraja. The only object of our bhajan is the holy feet of Sri Radhakrishna roaming about freely in the forest of Vraja. What should be our line of conduct in performing bhajan? Mahaprabhu's advice to Srila Raghunath Das Goswami in this connection was, Gramya katha na shunibe, gramya varta na kahibe, bhalo na kahibe, ar bhalo na paribe, amani manada hoy, Krishna nama sada labe, vraje Radha Krishna seba, manase karibe. Have no worldly talk, nor pay heed of it. Wear not good clothes, nor rich food to eat. Humbly take always Krishna Nam on your tongue. Within the mind, serve Radha Krishna all day long. In these verses, the first two recommendations are in the negative, the remaining in the affirmative. By Vraja Seva, Mahaprabhu meant service to Krishna by one who has a transcendental body and whose self-realization is complete. People ignorant of this generally turn into mental speculators and cannot rightly understand the teachings of the Gaudiya Math. This wicked mind, which is never to be trusted, should be broomsticked every morning with such caveats as, be not anxious to find fault with others or to proclaim thyself as a true, sincere, bona fide bhakta, which certainly you are not. So when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says to beat your mind when you wake up, this is one of the ways in which we can do that. In this connection, the advice of a Vaishnava Mahajan is, Karmi Jnani Micha Bhakta Nahabe Tate Anurakta Shuddha Bhajanete Karaman Vraja Janera Je Mato Tahe Habe Anugato E She Parama Tato Dhan. Be not attached to karmis, jnanis, and bhaktas false. Pure unalloyed bhajan do always endorse. Follow principles that Vraja folk adopt. Valued truths to be kept aloft. The mind is always working erroneously in looking upon this thing or that as either good or bad. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita states, Dvaite bhadra bhadra gyan shabo mano dharm e bhalo e manda e shabram. In the material world, conceptions of good and bad are all mental speculations. Therefore, to say this is good or that is bad is a mistake. People are usually overly busy in mental speculation. They should relieve themselves of this and try to ascertain their actual benefit. There is an adage, Para charakera gati nahi kon kale. A man habituated to criticize others' conduct will never prosper. Let others do whatever they like. I have no concern with them. I should find fault with my own damned mind and think like the Vaishnav Mahajan who wrote, Amara jivana sada pape rato, nahiko punyara lesh, Pura shuke dhuke sada mitabhashi. Paradhuka sukha karo. Ever acting viciously, not a trace of virtue in me. Sorry at others' pleasures, always speaking falsities. And merry at others' sorrows and adversities. From the Sharanagati. We should always remember this song and engage our minds ceaselessly in Hari Bhajan. We should not run about attacking others with a dissuading policy. Such conduct behooves only deceitful persons, not preachers. The ways of karmis and jnanis will direct us into immense difficulties by sidetracking our attention to contemplate shadowy, transient phenomena instead of the only cause of true origin, the Satchidananda Vigraha, the ever-existing, joyful, conscious entity Krishna, of whom everything visible in this world is a mere silhouette. The gross archaeologist is busy ascertaining the material ingredients of idols that may be of stone, wood, or other material. Some persons are iconographers or iconoclasts, and others are busy discerning the amount of filth or impurities accumulated in a particular soil. Yet they never care to discover or measure the impurities of their own mind. They never attempt to weed out undesirable elements of their consciousness, though such an endeavor is of paramount importance for their own self-interest. Now, whose bhajan are we to perform? Whom are we to worship? Usually we want to worship mammon with an aim to satisfy our own personal greed. Or sometimes we desire to secure the exalted position of President of America. But we never consider the necessity of worshiping the lotus feet of Sri Radhakrishna, skipping merrily in the forest of Vraja, without which there is no other way to secure pure permanent benefit. There are some who want to worship Krishna not of Vrindavan but of Dwarka, where he is served majestically by thousands of queens, while others are willing to respectfully serve only with the help of their upper limbs, Lord Vaikunthanath, who is possessed of all wealth and magnificence. Yet Sri Chaitanya Dev asks, should any service be done not with the help of all the limbs, from head to foot, including the inferior lower limbs? One will find no difficulty to properly answer this if he introspects. If these lower limbs have no use at all, or do not exist in the transcendental world, of which this gross world is a mere shadow, then why do they exist? In fact, the use of limbs in serving the Absolute Lord is their proper adjustment. Want of this understanding will lead us to woeful ways of karma and jnana. Tadvanam upasi tatvyam. The forest of Vraja alone is to be served and worshipped. To this end, we should always associate with the followers and devotees of Sri Chaitanya. Association with those who take the historic or speculative side of Krishna will spoil everything. Now, what does Sri Chaitanya say? He says that his name will be proclaimed everywhere, all over the world, from small hamlets to big cities. Mahaprabhu desires that all people of the world know Krishna Katha, details or discussions about Krishna as prevailing in Vrindavan. Notwithstanding their proficiency in various fields of activity, they should feel the necessity for Radha Govinda Bhajan. For what? Radha Govinda Bhajan. The 12 vanas, included within Vrindavan, are places of Krishna Bhajan in 12 separate rasas, of which 5 are primary and 7 secondary. Vanabihari Krishna, playful Krishna who scampers in the forest of Vraja and is the very form, emblem, or avatar of all rasa, is alone to be served and worshipped, not any other thing like earth, water, or mud. Yet in so doing, we should beware of the ways of mental speculators who, for the sake of enjoying the world, pose as Krishna, for such persons are liable to quarrel among themselves for their own share of enjoyment and ultimately fall into the lowest depth of degradation. To avoid this calamity, Krishna should be worshipped as Vanabihari, Krishna in the land of his own free and joyful movement. Now to turn to this third line of the previous song, Bhaja Gaura Gadadhara Dvaita Guru Nityananda. Sri Gadadhar has taught us the proper way to serve Krishna by his own example of serving Mahaprabhu. Roy Ramananda and Damodar Swarup set the same example. Mahaprabhu himself demonstrated the true function of a servitor. Though he is the real master to be served, he played the role of a servitor to show us how a servitor should perform his duty. Again, Sri Gadadhar Prabhu is also a servitor of Mahaprabhu. The same absolute Lord is Krishna in his enjoying activity, and Sri Gaurasundar in his serving capacity, and Sri Gadadhar Prabhu in his transcendental consort. A parallel example is if a man scratches his body with his own hand, while another person simultaneously scratches him. In this analogy, Sri Gadadhar Prabhu is the additional party. To be more explicit, Mahaprabhu serves his own self, Krishna, while Sri Gadadhar serves Mahaprabhu. Now to turn to Advaita Prabhu. He acted as an acharya or preceptor, and so Srila Kaviraj Goswami says, Advaitam Harina Dvaitad Acharyam Bhakti Samshanat Bhaktavataram Isham Tam Advaita Charya Ashraye. Because he is non-different from the Supreme Lord Hari, he is called Advaita, and because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and avatar of the Lord's devotee, therefore I take shelter of him. So-called acharyas of the present day are not removers of their disciples' afflictions and miseries, but removers of their properties. Yet what sort of acharya was Advaita Prabhu? From his own version in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita we find that he declares himself a servant of Sri Chaitanya. Servitude is the predominating feature of bhakti, and the acharya Advaita Prabhu sings glory to it by declaring himself a servant of Mahaprabhu. This serving tendency is predominant in the other four rasas also. Advaita Prabhu's special characteristic is his identifying his own revered self as servitor to Mahaprabhu despite being in a venerable position like a father. Such humble serving attitude is never found in the character of today's hypothetical acharyas, whose only object in life is to live happily by acting as guru. The next advice in the aforesaid song is to serve Guru Nityananda. We are to follow their ideal only. We should not offer ourselves to be guided by these ignorant, debauched fools fond of eating goat's flesh. Such persons can never act as gurus, themselves having fallen to the lowest depth of degradation. The next advice is Smara, Srinivas, Haridas, Murari, Mukunda. Remember Srinivas, Haridas, Murari, and Mukunda, who were Nityananda Prabhu's assistants and Mahaprabhu's associates in his earthly activities in Navadvip. They were asked by Mahaprabhu to go from door to door and bless everyone with Harinam. Pratigari Hari Gya Koro E Bhika. Bolo Krishna Bhajo Krishna Koro Krishna Shika. Iha Bhai Arna Boliba Bulaiba. Deen Avasani Ashi Amari Kahiba. Go from door to door. Anyone? Been door to door lately? One person. Everybody, okay, good. Go from door to door and beg their favor to say Krishna, serve Krishna, and learn his air. Say not and make not others say anything more. And at sunset, with news, come back to my door. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would send his associates out to go door to door and beg people to chant Hare Krishna. Then come back at night and they report their activities. That's what we do. Then we find the instruction, Smara Rupa Sanatana Jiva Raghunatha Dvandva. Here we are told to remember the Goswamis Rupa Sanatana Jiva, Raghunatha Das, and Raghunatha Bhatto. We are to follow them. Bhajan is impossible without following Rupa Goswami in particular. At this point, Raj K.C. Deb Roy of Bansberia entered, offering due obeisances to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's holy feet. In course of discussion, he remarked that it was God's mercy to have inspired him to visit the mutt on the very day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's arrival, to which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati responded, "Yes, Bhagavan is always lending us a helping hand, so we should stretch out our hand to catch hold. We should wait for his favor, and when it comes, we should avail of it. Then it will be all right." Raj Roy, but your blessings, the holy dasa of your lotus feet, are above all. Today is a glorious day. Today Bhagavan has kindly supplied food for my soul. Srila Sarasvati Thakura, yes, the soul no doubt requires nourishment. The function of the limited soul toward the universal soul is called bhakti, and that is the only thing needed. Yet unfortunately, people do not understand it. In bhakti alone, all will meet. Nowhere else is union possible. Everything should be used in Bhagavan's service. Only such use is the proper adjustment of things. All will be well if our acquired knowledge is used in his service, making coincidence of circumstances possible, in absence of which there will be only chaos. Raj Roy, the news about you in the newspaper at once made you appear in my mind. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, yes, such association of ideas takes place when one is serving Sri Vigraha. Without this, one is likely to be overtaken by nirvishesh confabulation of the absolute truth, as without form, figure, attributes, or activities. We should have full association with the absolute truth, but unfortunately at present we are detached from that, with the result that we are bringing miseries and troubles upon ourselves by seeking finite things with hands outstretched to grasp only limited objects, all of which are far from being the undivided whole, the absolute truth. Such phenomenon will not cease until we take shelter under the holy feet of Bhagavan, who is undivided and infinite. Sri Vigraha is certainly the direct manifestation of the absolute truth, Bhagavan. Raj Roy, but schemas regarding the true identity of Bhagavan differ in various sects and communities. Some persons opining that he is unmanifest, while others think he is manifest. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, yes, but those are merely different perspectives of mental speculation. To accept one idea now and reject it the next moment is useless and to be avoided. We should relieve ourselves of this and try to directly approach Bhagavan, Akila Rasamrita Murti, the very form of the nectar of consummate rasa. Yet we should not forget that he is transcendental and thus not measurable or perceivable to our gross senses. Efforts to measure him will give rise to varied skeptic views. Therefore, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Brahma Samhita state, Atashi Krishna Namadina Bhavid Grahamindraye Sevan Mukhihi Jivado Swayameva Spuratyada. The name who is identical with Krishna is not perceivable to gross senses, but maintains himself, that is articulated of his own accord on the tongue of those eager to serve him. And also, Premanjana Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Daiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Surupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship that original Lord Shamasundara, Krishna, who is possessed of inconceivable form and attributes, perceptible only to transcendental eyes, smeared and invigorated with the salve of loving service known as bhakti, from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So I will just take a few reflections. For those of you who just came in or joining us online, this was a lecture by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, of whose disappearance day we are celebrating today here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. And this lecture was delivered on 12th July 1936. Did you pick up anything that you would like to reflect back? Yes, 1, 2.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Whole lecture was instructive, but the last point that you mentioned that caught my attention was serving the eager to serve holy name, and by that way, the name reveals it's not just by senses. Atah Sri Krishna Nama Adi Na.
Yeah, it was an interesting translation of
Yeah.
the verse, isn't it? I'll read it again. The name who is identical with Krishna, this is from the verse Atah Sri Krishna Nama Adi. The name who is identical with Krishna is not perceivable to gross senses, but manifests himself, that is articulated of his own accord on the tongue of those eager to serve him. It's an important meditation. That service attitude while chanting Hare Krishna. By that, Krishna reveals himself. Otherwise, one can go on chanting and not be able to see Krishna in his name. What else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I really like the verse you mentioned from the Antya Lila, that, take me as your servant and give me the salary of your love.
Yeah, what did you like about that?
It is so humble. I mean, the attitude from the devotee is so humble that, I just want to be your servant and just pay me, your pure love as a salary. I don't
Here
want
it is on the
anything
board. It
else.
says, Prema Dhana, the wealth of ecstatic love, bina, without, vyarta, useless, daridra jivana, poor life, daskori, accepting as your eternal servant, vitana, salary, more, unto me, deha, give, prema dhana, the treasure of love of Godhead. Without love of Godhead, my life is useless. Therefore, I pray that you accept me as your servant and give me the salary of ecstatic love of God. What else? Yes.
Two points, Prabhu. The first one is how Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura boldly opened the lecture, differentiating the Daridra Narayan and how only the living entities are Daridra.
We jivas are really poor, no doubt. We are poor jivas, but not poor Narayanas. Yeah.
And how he again and again insisted at many times that not be interested in criticizing others by thinking that you are a great devotee, but he says that be interested. We do not see the errors of the karmis and the jnanis, but people who criticize others will not prosper. And then he said that find the fault of your damned mind. So
Yeah.
I like that.
He mentioned that several times. Hare Krishna. Do you have the mic? And then we'll go to Radha Kripa. I forgot you raised your hand. And there you go. Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I like the old poetry. It's so like through the poetry, it's so all ideas come very easy to mind.
Yeah, the
Then-
verses are poeticized, so it's very. Yeah.
And I like this especially when in bhakti alone we will meet no one else. Union is possible. And just somehow just go so.
In bhakti alone, let me see. I can't find it. Do you remember how far along it was? Oh. Be not attached to karmic yanis, bhakt is false. Pure unalloyed bhajan do always endorse. Follow principles that Raj folk adopt, valued truths to be kept aloft. Anyway, that's not it, but it's an example of what you're talking about. The words are so nicely placed, it really sticks. Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I'm feeling very fortunate today that we are listening directly the lecture given by Param Gurus. And what I felt so fascinating is that what he mentioned, that if we need to stop the construction of the temple, no more temples, we need to print the books. And I was thinking about how the same mood which he has was passed down by Prabhupada exactly to us, and through you too again to us. And I'm just feeling like we value that thing, this moment, that we could see that when the message is unaltered, it's presented as it is, its potency is magnified. So I'm really feeling very fortunate today. Thank you.
Yeah, this is the flavor that we get coming down to the parampara, that the same mood gets passed. That's what parampara means, one after another, and the same flavor of service should be passed down to the present day, and the same enlivened service is awakened in that we see at all times, because it's like a current coming through the wire. Yeah, and realizing that at the same time we're engaged in service, how we're being supported by the great acharyas in the Guru Parampara, understanding what their mood is so that we can follow in their footsteps, gives great encouragement, doesn't it? Yeah. Yes.
So one thing that struck my mind was the mention of measuring the impurities in the soil versus measuring the impurities in the mind.
Yeah.
The mind will be, I think, more dirty than the soil.
Yeah, why did it attract your attention?
Because there's so much of impurities in my mind. And I was just thinking that when it stuck that, yes, it's about trying to, measuring the impurities in the soil kind of is equivalent to finding fault in others versus impurities in your own mind.
Yeah, I also took it that he was mentioning various ways in which one may be observant of phenomena of the world and go into great detail of study of various phenomena. Because wasn't there a list besides studying the soil in that section? Oh, you can't look it up. Yeah, archaeologists and so forth. You're looking out in the world, studying so many things. You're an entomologist, and you can study every kind of beetle in the world. And but where is there any traction in your life from doing that? Ultimately, one has to purify one's own heart and introspect and see how am I connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and what's blocking me. I was reading earlier in this book where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura was saying that when he was talking about Raganuga Bhakti, I'm standing on one side of the river and that pure bhakti is on the other side, but there's a river of impurities that is dividing me from being there. He was emphasizing how important it is to work on oneself in order to cross that river of impurities, in order to come to the point of advanced bhakti. Spontaneous love is not simply an academic matter, but it's a matter of actually purifying oneself. We're being visited today in various ways. Yes.
Yeah, I was also thinking that normally people use the term "today is a glorious day" because some great personality was born, like a film star or president or something like that, or it's beautiful and the breeze is shining. But here, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura said that today is a glorious day because Bhagwan has given food for my soul. So that was really something that struck. Yeah.
Right.
And did you want the meaning of vain glorious?
Yes.
So vainglorious is having or showing too much pride in your abilities or achievements. A vainglorious celebrity.
Too much pride in one's own achievements. Yes?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
And it comes from medieval French, vainglorious, and medieval Latin's vaniglorious.
Thank you. And now we'll sing the song to the departed Vaishnavas. This is a song of feeling separation from the devotees. As Srila Ramananda Roy said, in response to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's inquiry, what is the greatest suffering in this world? Srila Ramananda Roy replied, I know of no other suffering except separation from the Vaishnava. And remembering that that he who reasons ill, who tells that Vaishnavas die, for Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name around. So that's why we celebrate the days of disappearance, partly because we know that the Paramahamsa devotee is going on to preach Krishna consciousness elsewhere, or to enter into the Nitya Lila, pastimes of the Lord. At the same time, Tirobhava means the disappearance of such a great soul. But it's also an opportunity for us to take advantage of the teachings, because the great souls leave behind them the instructions. And one has to, at the time of the disappearance of the Acharya, test one's own will to advance in devotional service by embracing the instructions and following them carefully, and crossing over the various obstacles that one will inevitably meet while one tries to go back to Godhead from this position of the material world. And when one realizes there's actually no difference between the person and the instruction, there's a feeling of connection to these great acharyas by following their instructions. Very practical matter. So this song, Yiyanelo Premadhana, has the following translation. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who is filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivas Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Premadhana. Number 3. Karuna Prachu. Number 3, translation, please. Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all worldly qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Jayanelo Premadhana Karuna Prachu. Jayanelo Premadhana Karuna Prachu. He no Prabhu Kota Gila Acharya Thakur. Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Charya Thakur. Kaha Mora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan. Kaha Mora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan. Kadasa Raghunata Patita Pavan. Kadasa Raghunata Patita Pavan. Kaha Mora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kavira. Kaha Mora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kavira. Ekakale Kota Gela Gauranataraj. Ekakale Kota Gela Gauranataraj. Pashane Kutibo Mata Anale Poshibo. Pashane Kutibo Mata Anale Poshibo. Gauranga Gonera Nidhi Kota Gile Pabo. Gauranga Gunera Nidhi Kota Gile Pabo. Sheshaba Sangira Sange Je Koilo Bila Sheshaba Sangira Sange Je Koilo Bila Sheshangana Paya Kande Narotamodas Sheshangana Paya Kande Narotamodas Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Bo. A characteristic of a pure Vaishnava is the quality called Paradukha-dukhi. And that means that one who has become free from envy, nirmasaranam, is sorry to see other living entities suffer. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pashiti Arjuna, sukham va yadiva dukam sa yogi paramo mataha. The best of all yogis is that yogi who empathizes with the sufferings and the so-called enjoyments of all others in this material world. Having a complete experience, him or herself, of what it means to be in the material world. And Krishna says, my opinion is this is the best of all yogis. And this is a very advanced stage because the material world is characterized by the quality of envy. In fact, oftentimes Prabhupada mentions that the habit of killing and eating animals is based on envy. And why should they live? Only I should live and they should die. And then I'll consume them. Of course, the entire material world is based on exploitation. As the Bhagavatam points out, Shukadeva Goswami says early on in the Bhagavatam, Mahastani sahastanam apadani chatushparam palguni tatra mahatam jivo jivasya jivanam. In order to live in this world, one must exploit others by killing and eating them. And one who recovers from this is known to be advancing in devotional service. That is mentioned by Rupa Goswami himself in the Upadeshamrita, when he mentions that the highest of Vaishnavas, the highest advanced state is when one becomes free from the propensity to criticize others and becomes free from envy. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was especially merciful and suffered because of the suffering of the suffering jivas in the material world. Therefore, he emphasized so much that devotees should go out and give the holy names to others. And he also emphasized speaking Harikatha. In fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura was not known for singing, but he was known for speaking Harikatha unceasingly in such enchanting ways that people were astounded by his devotional intellect and the ways in which he was able to present the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that way he attracted hundreds and thousands of very young intellectual people all over India and engaged them in teaching Krishna Katha and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam all over India, the very glorious institution of the Gaudiya Math, which was spearheaded especially by the mass distribution of literature. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, when he established his flagship temple in Calcutta, which was donated by a wealthy disciple who gave his entire life savings and energy to build that temple. In fact, he passed away a week before it opened. Established in the Sanctum Sanctorium, in the temple room itself, just next to the deities, the printing press, because he coined the phrase, the Briyat Madanga, that the coal and kartal, which was brought out into Navadvip by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, could be heard for a few blocks, but he said the printed word could go out and be heard all over the world. And so he emphasized this greater drum. And just recently I was in Alachua, Florida, as recently as 3 days ago, or maybe even 2. And we went out from the temple at Alachua, Florida, and 74 devotees came out to distribute books. And so we had a lot of planning to do, how to get everybody. 74 devotees is a lot to move from one place to the next. But they were organized. Sri Vrindavan Dasi is the Sankirtan leader there, and she put a lot of thought into it, along with 7 other leaders who worked together so that devotees could go out. And several young devotees came from the temple in the Krishna House, which is in Gainesville, not too far away from the Alachua temple. And after we went out for the afternoon, actually we assured the devotees we weren't going out to distribute books, which was a great relief to everybody. That we were only going to go out and touch the pavement, and after that everything else was extra. But we found, and then we agreed to meet afterwards at the temple and have a session where everyone could share their experiences. That went on for a couple hours. It's recorded, but it's worth listening to because it's amazing to hear the realizations of devotees, some of them who went out for the first time to distribute books, and to have been there to see what happened. We saw so much just within a few hours. But what really struck in my mind, there was a young devotee there, I think her name was Aries, from Gainesville. And she said, I've always appreciated being in the Harinam and chanting Hare Krishna. But now I saw going out and knocking on people's doors was a very merciful activity, and inducing them to take some Krishna literature. She said, especially after what had happened during the day was we sent devotees out to 4 different areas. And in those 4 areas, they could also split up more. Because 74 is a lot, right, Malini? Yeah. And so, but they ran out of spots, and then they kept converging back and forth. So it all filtered in. So that at the end, practically all of them were in one spot. And I have photographic evidence of this, but I think the last 3 doors that I knocked on, there were about 45 devotees standing with me. When people opened the door, there was 45 people there. But the penultimate door that I knocked on, a young Filipino man who was apparently a nurse of some kind opened the door and he said, "There's somebody in there that's very sick." The way he expressed it was, they were in hospice or dying or something like that. And so I just pushed a little bit more and offered him to take the book. I said a few words in Tagalog. And then he said, "I'm also sick." And he held out his arm, and it was full of like scars and kind of bubbles on his skin. And he said, "I'm on dialysis. I'm also very ill." And then I just gave him a book, and he closed the door. And all the devotees had witnessed that. And when I turned around, I said, "You see, that's why we go around door to door, because people are inside suffering." I bring this up because this was the mode of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, and I wanted to take away at least 3 lessons from his life and teachings. One of which is that we should be merciful, and that is go out to meet people where they live. They may not come looking for us. They may not know to do that. But knowing what we know, and knowing the importance of hearing Krishna Katha and coming in contact with the holy names, it's important for devotees to go out and meet people and give them an opportunity to come in contact with Krishna in the form of the holy name, Bhagavad Gita, and Prasadam. And this was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura's spiritual ambition, to see this go all over the world, as was his father's Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as was carried on by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Same mood, to take all kinds of risks, to go out into the world, into the unknown, and to consistently present Krishna consciousness for the benefit of others. One learns so much just in a few hours doing that. It's enough to solidify one's enthusiasm to practice chanting Hare Krishna, to even get more strength to go out and do it again. The two go together so well. So that's one of the lessons, and this is one of the moods that we can imbibe from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, our Param Guru, is compassion. And if one goes out and performs the activity of giving Krishna consciousness here, there, and everywhere, just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, following the footsteps of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who urged his disciples to do this every day, then we will grow in Krishna consciousness. Another lesson he taught us was to be non-critical. Criticize, look inwardly and find one's own fault. Very rarely do people take criticism to heart. Even disciples practically never do. I mean, it's rare. Unless somebody is extremely open to advancing in life, it's hard to take advice, or what to speak of criticism to strangers, what to speak of on the internet. It just agitates the environment. But if one takes very seriously the way in which one's own practice is going and tries to see how to improve oneself and remains very humble in that way, then one can live as an example for others, which will be greatly inspiring to people. And hardly one has to say anything by acting in an ideal way. Although it is, of course, permissible to and encouraged by even the acharyas that if people are teaching philosophies that are antithetical to the teachings of the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, one can assail those philosophies and correct what's being taught. But Prabhupada gave this advice when devotees first came to India, and they were assailed by many people who asked, that people are approaching us saying, what do you think of this Swami or that Guru? And Prabhupada said, just ask him, what is his philosophy? And then compare it to the Bhagavad Gita. So compassion, and also being non-critical, or even better, being aware of one's own faults and trying to correct them through practicing Krishna consciousness, chanting Hare Krishna, following the advice of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. And a third lesson that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave consistently was that one should not try to see Krishna, but one should work in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. This was his very definition of darshan. Sometimes the conception of darshan is that I'll go and see Krishna. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura particularly pointed out that in a conditioned state, one can't see Krishna. However, one can carefully follow the instructions of Krishna and work in such a way that he will be eager to see the devotee. And if one keeps this in mind, it's helpful, because if one considers, how is it that I'm working now? Is this something that is pleasing to Krishna? For instance, in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna lists various qualities that he says he finds endearing in his devotees. Those who are not disturbed by the various movements of the world. They go on with their service, regardless of what the external conditions of the world are. And they don't disturb others. They're not disturbed by others also. Prabhupada comments on that, saying that a devotee doesn't become his enemy's enemy. Someone may become his enemy, but he doesn't become his enemy's enemy. And if one takes these things to heart and thinks and remembers that Krishna is witnessing whatever activities I'm doing, and thinks, how can I act in such a way that Krishna will be attracted? There is a way in which I try to present myself to the world and to others in an ideal way, and then perhaps behind closed doors I may act in another way. This phenomenon is called drinking water underwater on a fast day. That showing that I'm fasting on a fast day. But when I go to take bath in the Ganga, I go underneath, and as my head goes down in the water, glung, 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 I start drinking in something, and I come back out and think, nobody saw me. But the devotee thinks Krishna is witnessing everything, therefore I'm working sincerely to show Krishna that I'm trying to follow his instructions. So these are three practical instructions that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura gave. And that is to show compassion. Specifically, he spoke about how this can be practically done by spreading Krishna consciousness, giving people an opportunity to read about Krishna, because this has a deep and lasting effect on people and on society in general. That when people receive Krishna conscious literature, they're able to sit down and read it, and it ultimately makes sense to people because it's the truth. And the written word lingers in society, and it has weight because it's written and organized in a certain way. So he was the champion of the cause of mass distribution of literature, and that's a very specific instruction that he passed on to our founder Acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada. And that was, if you ever get money, print books. That's a very practical instruction. Where to put your money. I mean, there's a lot of places you can put your money, but you'll lose it anyway, sooner or later. So it's smart to figure out where to put it so that you get the best ROI. And the best ROI just happens to be on giving your money for yajna. Actually, I was thinking about it. I wrote down a name of an article that I haven't written yet, but it was called yajna or suffer. That's the two choices you get in life. You can either perform yajna or you can suffer. And it doesn't matter how many material goods you collect in your life. If you're not engaging those in yajna, you'll suffer. You can't bear the weight of them. In fact, even Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj was once handed a rupee, and then he got a couple miles down the road and he told his servant to take him back. He was being carried, and then he gave the rupee back, said, I can't stand the weight of this. Too heavy, you take it back. He did that as an example. Whatever goods we get should be engaged in yajna, otherwise they cause great suffering. And the great yajna in this age, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was pointing out, there's Panchratrik Vidhi, which is important, but he said even more important is the bent towards massive distribution of the holy names, and especially, he said, by printing literatures and making them available to the world. So literature distribution is something we've inherited. Printing and distribution we've inherited. When I was in Washington, D.C., the last day I was there, I went to see the Lincoln Memorial and also the National Archives, and I picked up some really good things. One thing, I found some people that, because the elevator was broken on one of the memorials, they had a tent there, and inside they had an app on the iPhones, and then they had little viewers. You could put the phone in there, turn on the app, and then you can look around. In any direction you turn, you'd actually see every detail of Washington D.C. from the direction you were looking, from the vantage point of the tower that you might have been in if the elevator was working. Did that all make sense? In any case, it opened in my mind unlimited possibilities for using those kinds of things at our kirtan oasis, ways in which people could come in and just, they also had headphones there you can put on, and have a 3 to 5 minute full tutorial on various subject matters, and actually see them before their very eyes. Now, what point was I making before I diverted my... Yeah, literature distribution, yajna. In any case, I interrupted myself, but because I got too excited about that one point. But the printing of literature and distribution to people all over the world was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur's penchant, and he passed it on to Srila Prabhupada. Then I talked about being non-critical and also working in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. Those are 3 solid lessons that anyone can imbibe from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's life and teachings. And any one of them or all 3 of them together will be transformational. And now I'll take a few reflections. Especially about the last points. Yes.
Prabhuji, I was thinking about the para dukha dukhi. When you look at people, especially like when we go book distribution in San Francisco, or when people are drug addicts and they don't want to take it, or they just lost, you feel really bad for them. But at that, what else can we do? We can give them literature if they are ready to take it, but is there something else that we can do for them?
Yes, you can assist them when they show some interest in Krishna consciousness. You give prasadam, that's also a great boon to every living entity, receiving prasadam. They can hear the holy names. And then, of course, we have a whole infrastructure, spiritual infrastructure, that is always developing, which is meant to be accommodating for people who want to take spiritual life seriously and make step-by-step progress. So one has to rack one's brains to see, as Prabhupada said, tax your brain, to see the ways in which you can accommodate people and help them along. And it's not an easy task. It takes, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura said, in fact he advised his disciples that you should be ready to give 200 pounds of blood to save one person from the material world. And anyone who does this kind of work, who tracks the progress of people very intimately and has a connection with them, tries to help them personally, will find that people have major ups and downs in their lives. And it can be very trying emotionally. So one who's fully in line with the mood of the acharyas, takes to heart saving oneself and also accommodating as many others as possible. And that's what Goshti Nandis do. They absorb themselves in all kinds of ways. In fact, I was just reading in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam where Prabhupada said, if you chant 16 rounds and then you engage yourself in managing the Krishna consciousness movement for the sake of expanding it, so there's no difference between that kind of management and direct spiritual activity. So those are fully absorbing activities, thinking about how to spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Who else had a point? Yes, Shraddha. I don't know if I mentioned it, but this young devotee, Bhaktine Aries, I think her name was, after she saw, when the door closed and there were all those devotees and they just saw that, I turned around and I said, that's why we do these, that's why we go out here. And she had commented that it had been very moving for her to be on Sankirtan and to have seen how effective it is and how important it is for devotees to go door to door, to meet people. And she said, previously I was satisfied to go to a kirtan in the temple and stay there and chant. She said, but now I feel compelled to go out also and bring it to people, right to their doors. Okay, now. Yes.
So this is Bhakta Thomas.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the class. I like the imagination of beating the mind every morning with a broomstick. I think Prabhupada said we should also beat the mind with a broomstick every night. I'm hoping they sell broomstick at the dollar store because I need to get a lot to get my mind under control. Can you give a practical example of how we can apply this metaphor?
Well, it was actually in the lecture itself. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had quoted the song, Bhajare Bhajare Ama Mana Ati Manda. Oh, my mind, he's begging my mind, please remember, please remember. So very practically, before one goes to bed, one should hear some Krishna Katha, chant some mantras, and the mind should be fully engaged. And then when one wakes up, one should immediately start the vibration again and be ready to move into a series of programs in which one is regulated in hearing Krishna Katha. For instance, in a normal morning program, when you wake up, there are duties to do. You first turn on offer your obeisances, turn on the vibration, then you may take bath, and then attend Mangal Artik, and after Mangal Artik, there are various things to recite the 10 offenses, other kinds of things. If you're at home, you have to develop a regular program in order to stay engaged in Krishna consciousness. You may say, I did it 3 days in a row, I did it 3 years in a row, now I'll take a break. And the mind is like a wild animal. As soon as you think, he's okay now, then he'll come out of his cage and he'll kill everybody in the house. So one has to be vigilant throughout one's life to keep the mind engaged in Krishna consciousness. So very practically, it really means keep the vibration going and also have a clear idea of what one's duties will be when one wakes up in the morning and when one goes to sleep at night. Don't divert it to other things. Yes.
I liked where you mentioned yajna or suffer, and I was just recalling Prabhupada used to mention about when talking about people surfing in the Hawaii seas, he used to call it suffering instead of surfing, because that's what you're doing. And
yes, he suffers. And when he saw the early devotees who didn't know better, or maybe they did, but they hadn't been trained properly yet, sitting in a donut shop when he was walking home. Later he instructed them, he said, donut means do not. So, yes, Malini.
Prabhuji, one thing to take away was the point that was repeated about introspection, and then the one that you mentioned that we are standing on this side of the river, and the other side of the river is bhakti, and the river is full of impurities within ourselves. So we have to clean ourselves to swim across to get to the bhakti.
Yeah. I'll read a quote or two from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's teachings about the great drum, since now is of course, all year long is the marathon here, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in his essay, Madhva Gaudiya Literature, Srila Sarasvati Thakura wrote that Gaudiya literature is the only hope for fallen souls of this epoch, and predicted that its influence would soon spread throughout the world. Quote, the Madhva Gaudiya literature enshrines the account of the career and teachings of Sri Chaitanya and his associates from the pens of the eternal servants of the Lord. They not only rank with revealed literature of the world, but furnish the only complete divine dispensation for all ages and the specific dispensation for the present age. The reason why the promulgation of the divine dispensation has not been followed by the establishment of unadulterated theism all over the world is to be sought in our neglect to try to understand the Gaudiya literature by the only method of approaching the transcendental subject, namely through the medium of the spiritual guide. The fear of being victimized by the quacks and pseudo-gurus need not trouble those who do not themselves intend to be so victimized in their quest of the Absolute. It is imperatively necessary for all persons who really wish to make the spiritual acquaintance of the Gaudiya literature to engage in the quest of bona fide Chaitanyites. You're all Chaitanyites. If they are themselves not in earnest or are disposed to be content with anything less than knowledge of the Absolute revealed by the Gaudiya literature, they are foredoomed to failure or to fall into the hands of pseudo-gurus. See if that word is in the dictionary, foredoomed. F-O-R-E-D-O-O-M-E-D, foredoomed. But no really cautious person who knows his own mind need miss the sight of the bona fide devotee of Godhead if he is really in need of the service of the divinity. The Gaudiya literature will be translated into all the languages of the world by the agents of the divine mercy at the appointed time. While I was there in Washington, D.C., I had some nice conversations with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they had their little racks. Have you seen those? Yeah. Did we order some? Let's get them. We'll try it out. What? They think we're one of them? That's all right. We're all brethren. We're all working for a similar cause. And I talked to them. I picked up a copy of Watchtower. They print every month in 1,000 languages. And they also have make their own paper. They make their own ink. They have their own printing presses. They're fully dedicated to literature and to being out in public and giving to people. Not only that, we have a great debt of thanks to give to the Jehovah's Witness and other of these Christian organizations, because many of them have opened the door through legal maneuvers for all other religious groups. For instance, the Jehovah's Witness has spent a lot of money on legal cases, making it legal to go door to door. Of course, we can't take these things for granted, because we can see in this day and age how quickly things can be dismantled by an opposite party. It's the way things work in the material world. One day all the demigods are happy, the next day Hiranyakashipu is dominating everything. I'm not making any specific comparison, although if you care to, feel free. And there's ways in which the material world is topsy-turvy, so we can't depend on any particular situation, think that it'll last forever. And so, yes, I discussed for them, and I was impressed by their level of organization, and felt that we should not disparage any of these groups, but appreciate them as fellow people of faith, and also appreciate and glean from whatever they're doing the kinds of ways they're organizing themselves and the mood in which they're spreading knowledge of the Supreme to people. I'm saying that in a very general way, because of course when we get down to specifics, obviously there are differences. The Gaudiya literature will be translated in all the languages of the world by the agents of the divine mercy of the appointed time. And one of the reasons I'm thinking of this is because Madhava Smolin, who's a writer, just wrote a beautiful article about Georgian literature. And there's a way that Georgian, anybody here speak Georgian? It's a specific language, and the devotee who translated it is a doctor. He works full-time at the hospital. He has a family life and everything like that. So then he did most of his translating over the last few years on the train. He didn't want to drive to work. He always took the train, because on the train to and from, he could work on the translation work. And such dedication he had, and such appreciation for the literature. And that's yet another language that the books, the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita he just finished. So thinking about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's vision of how the Gaudiya literature gets translated into all the different languages is very important. It's a really daunting task. Just producing one book and getting it right is very difficult. And Prabhupada, to that end, employed many devotees in helping to lay out the books, do the artwork, do the editing, do the publishing. All this takes enormous work. And then the translating into other languages is painstaking work. But once it's done, it opens up the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to a whole other section of the population. Several million people speak Georgian. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta did not want to leave them behind. They needed to receive this. The Gaudiya literature will be translated into all the languages of the world by the agents of the divine mercy at the appointed time, which seems to be now. There will also no doubt spring up a mighty host of pseudo-exponents of an immense body of spurious Gaudiya literature, as has been the case in the past. This is to be expected by all really thoughtful persons, but nothing can have the least power of depriving a person of the mercy of the real agents of divine mercy, except one's deliberate refusal to avail of the same when it will be offered at his very door in a perfectly recognizable form. As soon as a single person will have conceived the sincere desire of undertaking the promulgation of the tidings of the Gaudiya literature to the peoples of the world, he is thereby enrolled among the agents of divine mercy with power to forward the fulfillment of this expressed wish of the Supreme Lord. I hope you're all smiling. The Gaudiya literature will not long remain confined to the Bengali-speaking people it will in short time expand and display its full brilliancy through the medium of all the languages, including those of the birds, beasts, and the vegetable tribes. We've got a lot of people to contact and a lot of birds and vegetables to talk to. So now we're going to have a Pushpanjali. So we'll put away all the asanas. We'll gather around the Vyasasana of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. I'm assuming there are flowers already prepared. And so let's do that post-haste, and then we'll be ready for the artik just afterwards. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura ki jai. Gaur Bhaktavrinda ki jai. Distributing to the vegetable tribes ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol.